Yesterday I was browsing Reddit and I came across a Reddit post by a user named Andy Walks With Me. And Andy writes, "I'm not waving, I'm drowning. I'm in a slump and it's brutal. Anyone interested in helping me break out of it? I played for a year or so, only with China, and got up to gold 3, but could never break into the next rung. Switched to Abbasid, feel lost, and nothing was working." The tilt is real. I really liked how genuine this post was phrased, so let's just try and help Andy. Now, whenever I see a thread like this, there's usually some solid advice in the comments, but some of that is kind of phrased in a way that kind of irks me. And I wanted to make this video in order to show how it should be done right, in my opinion. For example, saying like consistent villager production is very important is absolutely true, but it doesn't really drive home why it is. To me, this is the number one most important thing, but it kind of gets lost among all the other ones. It really should have been at the top of the Reddit thread in big bold letters. I'm going to talk about this here because I've looked over a couple of Andy's replays and in basically all of them, consistent villager production was an issue. And I'm going to use these replays to show why it's important and how big of an impact it can have. In order to keep the guy mostly positive, I'm going to use a format that you're all familiar with. It's the Family Guy compliment sandwich.
The compliment sandwich, where I say something good, then talk about where you need improvement, and then end with something good.
Whatever you gotta do.
First good thing. A good thing that Andy does is playing consistently. And if you're not gonna play a lot, you're not gonna improve. There's too many people who are procrastinating and not actually playing, just sitting in Twitch chat complaining about balance on Reddit or editing YouTube videos instead of actually grinding the ladder and getting better. But not Andy. He's out there doing the work. You should keep that up. But now, mistake number 1. Inconsistent villager production. It's so easy to say you have to consistently produce villagers that I think the importance of the point kind of gets lost. And not building villagers is both a relatively easily fixable mistake and massively impactful for the game. So this is what I'm gonna do here, is in too many words explain why consistent villager production is so important and how to do it. The first game I looked at, Andy opened with military wing, pushed across the map, did a bunch of damage to the opponent, got a huge advantage, ended up winning the game, but it was actually much more of a struggle than it needed to be. You see, simply rewind the game back to minute 5, and let's speed up the footage for the next 6 minutes. We can see, or more importantly, not see, the icon for villagers. It does not show up for a full 6 minutes. 6 minutes of no villager production means you are losing 18 villages. And this happened at a time where Andy had only 19 villagers in total. That means this is the amount of villagers you could have had, Andy. And this is what you did to yourself. If you did that to your opponent, you would be ecstatic. You'd be, "I'm doing so fucking great. I'm fucking this dude up." But nope, you did that to yourself. And that's bad. Why is this so important? Again, seems intuitive and easy, but let's harp on it a little longer. If you think about how a game of Age of Empires 4 works, you start out gathering resources with the villagers you have at the start. Then you use those resources to produce villagers. The villagers produce resources. The resources are turned into production buildings. The production buildings produce units. The units attack, destroy stuff, and kill the opponent. There's a ton of other stuff going on. There's upgrades, there's relics, yada yada yada. We're not going to look at any of that right now. Let's just look at this very simplified version of AoE 4. Looking at the game like this tells us that each step in this process can only be as efficient as the step before, which means if you mess up the villager production, each step that follows is affected by that mess up. That is why villager production is the most crucial step in this whole process. If you cut your villager production in half, you cut everything after that in half also, which means you have to try and kill the opponent with half the units that you could have possibly had, which makes it much harder. Everything is terrible if you don't build villagers. This one simple but crucial concept can be the North Star that guides you out of Bronze League and maybe even out of Silver League into Gold. I really believe that. You might think we're done talking about this, but we're not. Let's actually talk about the technique. The most important hotkey I've set up for myself, select all town centers. I have this on F4. This is probably the button I push the most. You can hear me spamming it when I have nothing to do in game. You can set this up differently if you want. Some people have it at control group 1 and then add all the town centers manually to control group 1. If you do that consistently, it's fine, but you need to have a hotkey that selects all town centers. That hotkey needs to be pushed consistently, and then you need to use the hotkeys to build villagers. We're not using the mouse. That's bad technique. Get rid of it. It's easy to just select all town centers and hit Q. You can do it. The bottom left of your screen should have the general production queue always visible. And if you have that set up, the bottom left box should be a blue one with villagers inside of it. And it should always have a number in it also. Never only have one villager queued up, really always have several queued up. If you're seeing that at the bottom left and you should be constantly checking it and there isn't a number there or there isn't a blue box there, slap yourself metaphorically in the face and say, nope, bad. I should be having a villager production there. If you're supply blocked, you can't build villagers, and that's the same as not queuing them. That's terrible. Don't ever have that. Always have a hotkey for all town centers. Always make sure there's a blue box in the bottom left. Always make sure there's a number in that blue box. Check it constantly. And do not start producing villagers until you have a total of 120. You can check the total villager count by mousing over your population count, and it will show you how many workers you have in total. In lower ranks, you can suffocate your opponent with units simply by having enough villagers that produce enough resources that dump some sort of unit onto the map, and it all starts with consistent villager production. Good thing number 2. The thing I'm going to mention here is actually something that's kind of a tip for everybody else except for Andy, because the thing that is super underutilized in a lot of online games is asking other people for help. If you think about it, every even super tiny sports team has a coach that tells people how to get better, but people in video games generally just kind of grind. And Andy did the right thing here and sort of just saying, hey, can someone take a look at my game? It's a little bit embarrassing to have other people point out your mistakes, but I highly recommend getting over that and just getting other people to talk about you, even if it's just after the game to your opponent or just posting on Reddit being like, hey, can someone take a look? All of that, I think, is super helpful, and Andy made it easier for himself by just reaching out, and I think that's a really good thing. Mistake number 2. Inconsistent military production. Oh god, we get it already. Consistent production is important, and like, yeah, that's basically the gist of it, right? The step before that would be the resource gathering, but that's like really complicated and easily a video of its own. Just avoid idle villagers, which you're already doing, then you're fine. The step after this one is unit production, and that one has a much more straightforward mistake in it that is very common, that is also very easy to fix, and that is simply not having enough production facilities. To fix that mistake, all you really need to do is remember one sentence, and that is the correct amount of barracks is too many barracks, or archery ranges, or stables. I use this as a general rule to this day, where if I don't feel like I have one too many production facilities, I just build more until I feel like I have one or two too many production facilities. That allows me to like slack off a little and then catch up on the unit production a little bit later. Compared to an extra town center, these unit production buildings are super cheap and can be thrown down easily. And since we are now all very consistently producing villagers, I mean, you are, aren't you? Well, your income will be going up consistently too, so you're going to want to have more production facilities anyway. Implementation of this is similar. There's also some good practice when it comes to hotkeys. Mine are on screen here. There's a lot of different ways you can implement these. Another way you can look at it is that you never want to have more than like 2 or 3 units queued up in each production facilities. If you have more, just cancel some, use the resources to throw down a couple of extra archery ranges or barracks or whatever. Especially in Silver League, this is just going to improve your macros so much and you're just going to win more. Something good number 3. Andy seems to stick to one civ and probably even one specific build order, and you should probably too. Because if you have a set amount of time and you're trying to maximize the rank you can achieve, the best thing you can do is learn one build order against everything rather than learning every civ and every build order at the same time. Specializing like this makes the whole thing much easier. This is better for when you're climbing. Andy does this and you should do too if you're trying to maximize your rank. If you're just having fun, do whatever. I'm not your dad. Alright. Mistake number 3. The third thing we're going to talk about is a little more specific and a little more fun and interesting and maybe counterintuitive than the other two. When Andy attacks and goes forward with his feudal age push, we can always see these attacks happening in the following. Like the units walk up to what is oftentimes the gold vein and start attacking right away. On the surface, this seems fine, right? You're trying to push the enemy off of gold, trying to get that villager killed, but you can actually do something much more efficient here if you take into account what the enemy sees and hears in this instance. Because the thing that I want you from now on to pay attention to is like, think about when does the alarm on the minimap go off for the opponent. You know the alarm, that thing, it happens not when the enemy units walk onto the minimap and become visible, but when they attack something. Which means if you walk your units over like this and just attack right away, the alarm blares as soon as these ranged units start shooting the villagers. The melee units, however, are not yet in range. So a better thing you can do is take into account that alarm and delay it as much as possible by walking your ranged units closer to the enemy villagers and only start attacking them when the melee units are almost in range. That increases the odds of you getting a villager killed by a whole lot. If you look at this example, we can measure the amount of time from when the alarm blares to the villager kill and do this for both cases where we just walk up and attack as soon as possible, and the other case where we like walk up close and then start attacking later in order to delay the alert. How long is the time from alert to villager kill? We can just measure it, and I showed here. This drastically cuts down the reaction time that the opponent has. This is relevant all the way up to Conqueror 3. I did this once against a Conqueror 3 player who was playing Japan and actually managed to get a villager kill before the villager could escape into the Cura stores, even with a Conqueror 3 opponent who has really good reaction time, obviously. I totally lost that game and got annihilated, but that one villager kill, I still remember to this day. It's my one achievement in that game. Keeping in mind what we just learned, we can watch this clip that I showed earlier again. The archers walk up, start shooting, the alert blares, the opponent reacts and pulls back the villager. The villager is immediately out of range of the archers because the archers did not walk up as close as they possibly could, and the spearmen were nowhere near in range, so this villager is saved. This is only at minute 6 in the game, where the opponent doesn't actually have that many villagers yet, so getting even one kill could have been like a huge impact for the whole game in the long run, and made it much easier for you. Alright, final good thing. Andy was smart and didn't wait for this video to come out to try and improve. Instead, he just kept playing and appears to have already implemented a lot of the advice that I was trying to give. For example, in this match, we can see that the villager production has become much more consistent in the most recent matches, which I really like. By the way, you should always check the graph for worker count after the match to see if there are any horizontal lines in it. Those are the parts where you screwed up and didn't produce any villagers and you need to slap yourself. And as you can see, Andy did very good. And as you can also see, Andy's now gold 1, which means the, villager production has definitely helped increase his rank. Very good, Andy. Keep that up. In conclusion, everything is terrible if you don't build villagers. The correct amount of barracks is too many barracks, and get into range before you attack the enemy villagers. Right now I'm considering making a regular replay review video for Andy a week or so from now. That is what this video was originally intended to be. I think it could be kind of fun to check in on him and see how things have gone and if maybe Platinum has actually been achieved. That's of course only if you want me to, Andy. If you've had enough of all of this, I'm totally fine. With that, I would like to say thanks for watching. Please subscribe to Trash Can Incorporated, and I'm out for now. Bye bye.